It's very rare that I find a person in South Africa who's opposed to Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. I've met several South Africans in person, and I've seen many South Africans on social media actively support Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. The largest party, the ANC, has called itself neutral on the Russian-Ukrainian war, but it kind of supports Russia more, and the EFF is fully supportive of Russia's attack on Ukraine. So it seems to be more popular in South Africa to support Russia than to support Ukraine. There are a few reasons for this, but the main excuse people give for supporting Russia is the fact that Russia supported the ANC during apartheid. Russia armed the ANC's resistance struggle against the far-right authoritarian regime of the National Party. So I often hear people make arguments like, no, but we must stand with Russia, we must support Russia, Russia's our ally, Russia helped us during apartheid, Russia played a role in our liberation struggle, Russia helped free us, Russia funded the ANC, so we must support Russia because Russia supported us. And my question is, why would you support someone who's committing mass murder and genocide just because they supported you 30 years ago? Isn't that insane reasoning? So let's say you had a friend named Bob, and Bob saved your life 20 years ago when someone was about to murder you, and then Bob saved your life. And then later on, Bob goes and murders 20 children. What are you going to do? Are you going to say, I will always support everything that Bob does because Bob saved my life 20 years ago? I will not criticize him. I'm on his side. Bob is my friend. Bob is my ally. I feel eternally grateful to Bob to the point where if he murders children, I will still support that. Like, do you see the problem with this? Russia has committed massive war crimes in Ukraine for the past 2 years. Russia has killed 40,000 civilians, they displaced 16 million civilians, they cut off electricity to half the population, they committed massacres against women and children and left the corpses of civilians in mass graves, they've put civilians in concentration camps, and a whole lot of other dodgy stuff, including kidnapping thousands of Ukrainian children and taking them to Russia and forcibly adopting them into Russian families, which is considered an act of genocide. So Russia's been going around on a genocidal killing spree in Ukraine and trying to take Ukraine's land, and a lot of South Africans respond by saying, Russia was against apartheid, so we must support them. Like, this is insane. Russia is a dictatorship that is oppressing the Ukrainian people and is trying to colonize Ukraine. We as South Africans live in a democracy, and we should be against all oppression and all colonization and all genocide. Just because Russia's our ally, just because Russia's part of BRICS, just because Russia funded the ANC during apartheid, doesn't mean that we must just sit quiet while Russia is committing mass murder. Most of the world's countries have condemned Russia's actions. South Africa is one of the few countries in the world that will not condemn Russia. So many South Africans are brainwashed to think that no matter what Russia does, we will always be their friends, we will always support them. But is there a limit? Is there a point where it becomes too much? Because they've already committed massacres against civilians, they've put people in concentration camps, they've abducted children to Russia, they've destroyed schools and hospitals. It's like, at what point are we going to condemn Russia? Would we only start condemning Russia once it put Ukrainian civilians in extermination camps and started gassing them to death like during the Holocaust? Would we condemn Russia then, or would we still be like, oh, well, apartheid ended in part because of what Russia did? No, all genocide is wrong. If we use the logic that we shouldn't condemn Russia's actions because they're our ally, then by that logic, America shouldn't be condemning Israel's actions because Israel's an American ally. You can't just give your allies a pass because they're your allies. Your allies can also do bad things. They can also commit mass murder and violate international law. The other thing I want to point out is that Russia's not the same country it is now as it was during apartheid. During apartheid, it was the Soviet Union. It was a socialist country with a left-wing communist government. Now, Russia is a capitalist country with a right-wing conservative leader, Vladimir Putin. Vladimir Putin wasn't the leader of the Soviet Union. He wasn't the one who helped the ANC during apartheid. It was other left-wing communist leaders of Russia, when Russia had a left-wing government. Now Russia has a right-wing conservative nationalist government that's also capitalist. So Russia is a completely different country versus what it was back then, apart from still being a dictatorship. It doesn't make sense to say that we must support this right-wing conservative Vladimir Putin while he's busy killing children because, oh, well, he was born in the same country as those communists who also supported the ANC. It's like, they're not the same people. They're not the same government. Russia's not the same country as it was during apartheid. It's not run by the same people. So even if we're indebted to the Soviet Union, it doesn't mean that we're indebted to the current capitalist, non-communist Russia with a different leader. That's just a side point, but the main point is, Russia was supporting the ANC when it was fighting against oppression. Right now, Russia is the one doing the oppression against the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are the ones fighting against oppression. If we as South Africa are against oppression, we should be supporting the Ukrainians, the ones fighting against oppression. We should not be supporting the oppressors just because they used to support the oppressed in South Africa.